Okay, so, are you ready to dive into this? I'm really excited about this one.
Yeah, let's do it.
A deep dive into a topic I know we're both kind of fascinated by. When we talk about building wealth, right? And you specifically, you know our listeners, you guys asked to really unpack the insights from The Millionaire Next Door,
Yeah.
which has been a bestseller for years. And honestly, it's a classic for a reason. I mean, who doesn't love a good wealth building secret?
Right. And I think the enduring appeal of this book, is that it debunks so many myths about millionaires.
Totally.
It's so easy to fall into that trap of thinking millionaires, like everybody pictures, the sports cars and the mansions and all of that. And this book really blows those stereotypes out of the water.
Right. It's like the authors, Thomas Stanley and William Danko,
Yes.
held up this giant magnifying glass to the lives of everyday millionaires across America. And get this, they spent decades on this research. Decades.
Incredible.
Focusing on those who fly under the radar.
Right.
Not just the flashy outliers.
Totally. I mean, they wanted to understand
Right.
the DNA of wealth creation.
Yeah.
And what they discovered is that the real millionaires next door, like you were saying, often live surprisingly modest lifestyles.
Right.
Yeah. Imagine this. Okay. Driving an old car,
Yes.
owning a business
Yeah.
in a so-called boring industry,
Okay.
living in a modest neighborhood.
Okay.
It doesn't exactly scream millionaire, does it?
Not at all. It's almost like they're masters of disguise.
All right.
But there's a method to this, right? There's a method to this seeming madness.
Absolutely. It boils down to a fundamental difference in values.
Okay.
These millionaires, they prioritize financial independence over social status.
Oh, yeah.
It's not about keeping up with the Joneses. It's about building wealth steadily and quietly,
Right.
without needing to shout it from the rooftops.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now you're making me think of that anecdote from the book about the millionaire who apologized for wearing a Timex watch.
Oh, yeah.
He was so used to blending in
Right.
that he felt self-conscious about not having a flashy Rolex,
Yeah.
Yes.
That story perfectly encapsulates, I think, the deceptive nature of wealth. It's not always about outward appearances.
Right. And in fact, for the millionaires next door, it's often about making choices that align with long-term goals rather than short-term gratification.
And speaking of choices, this is where things get really interesting. The authors identify 7 common habits these millionaires share. And trust me, some of them might surprise you. You ready to unlock these secrets?
Oh, yeah. I'm still struck by how, I don't know, simple yet powerful these habits are, even after all these years of, studying wealth creation.
All right. It's true. Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
So let's unpack them.
Yeah.
The first, and they really hammer this home, living below their means.
Yes, which, as you can imagine, is often the most challenging but crucial habit to master. Because it's not always about earning a fortune. It's about mastering your spending habits.
Right.
Think of it like this, okay? Earning a lot is fantastic offense.
Yeah.
But if you're spending it all, your defense is weak, and you'll never win the financial game.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
It's about being strategic and playing the long game, just like those millionaires who, meticulously track every expense.
Right.
They're not being stingy.
Right.
They're just incredibly aware of where their money is going.
It's about being the captain of your own ship,
Yeah.
your own financial ship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that awareness empowers you to make intentional decisions about your spending.
Totally.
Take, for example, the millionaire couple who bought a used car for a ridiculously low price from a neighbor who was desperate to sell.
Yeah.
They weren't just being frugal, they were thinking several steps ahead,
Right.
knowing they could likely resell that car for a profit if they ever needed to.
Exactly.
That's brilliant.
Yes.
Okay, so habit number 1, being incredibly intentional, playing great financial defense. What's next on the list?
Well, this focus on frugality really ties directly into the next habit,
Okay.
which is being incredibly efficient
Interesting.
with your resources.
Okay.
And it's not just about money.
Right?
It's about your time and your energy, too.
Right.
Think about it. Have you ever felt like you were wasting time on things that didn't really matter?
Oh, all the time.
Right. These millionaires, they're masters at focusing on what brings the biggest returns, both financially and personally.
It's like they're playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. Like they're thinking so many moves ahead, whether it's their time, their money, their energy.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And they understand that these resources are all interconnected, you know?
Yeah.
For example, a lot of these millionaires, despite their wealth, they'll still, like, mow their own lawns,
Right.
you know? Not because they're cheap,
Right.
but because they recognize it as a form of exercise
Oh,
and a way to stay grounded,
I see.
you know?
It's like that old saying, the best things in life are free. Or at least relatively inexpensive.
Right.
Okay, so we've got, like, the smart spending.
Yes.
We've got that efficiency with
Yes.
time and energy. What's the next, like, millionaire move?
This one's huge.
Yes.
Prioritizing financial independence over social status. You know, we touched on it a little bit earlier, but it's worth really digging into because I think this is a major mental hurdle for a lot of people.
Right. If it's so easy to get caught up in what everyone else is doing, right?
Yeah.
Especially, like, with social media, and you're constantly seeing, you know, images of luxury and success, and
Totally.
it's so easy to fall into that comparison trap.
It's inescapable.
Right.
Yeah, we're constantly bombarded with messages that say we need to buy this and drive that and own the latest gadget to be happy.
Right.
But the millionaires next door, they've kind of cracked the cane.
Right.
You know, they understand that true wealth is about freedom.
Okay.
Freedom from financial stress, freedom to pursue your passions, freedom to, like, spend your time how you want.
No, that's a kind of freedom that I think most people would envy, for sure.
Right.
And it reminds me of that millionaire who said he'd rather drive his old pickup truck and be financially secure than have a fancy sports car and be stressed about payments.
Yes. It's about aligning your choices with what truly matters to you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes, totally.
And that leads perfectly to kind of the next habit, right?
Yeah.
Which is their parents didn't give them a free pass.
Right.
You know, in fact, this is where the concept of economic outpatient care comes in.
I'll admit, the first time I heard that term, I chuckled. But, like, the more you think about it,
It's so true.
it really makes sense.
It's a powerful image, isn't it?
Yeah.
It perfectly encapsulates, you know, how constantly bailing your adult children out financially, even with the best of intentions, can actually be detrimental in the long run,
Right.
you know? And it's something that I think so many parents gravel with, like that desire to give their children everything.
Of course.
Yeah.
We love our kids. We want to provide for them.
Of course.
But are we doing them any favors by, like, creating this cycle of dependence? And I think the book makes a very strong case that true generosity is about empowering your children
Sure.
to become self-sufficient,
Totally.
not reliant on these handouts.
Yes.
You know?
It's about giving them the tools, right?
Right.
And that ties into that story of Lamar and Mary, remember them,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
who are always kind of, you know, living large on handouts from Mary's wealthy mother,
Right.
never having to actually work for anything.
Mm.
It ultimately leaves them completely unprepared for the realities of life.
It's a cautionary tale, for sure.
Yes.
And it highlights how that economic outpatient care can really backfire
Right.
and leave, you know, everyone involved worse off. What's so interesting is it's not just about the kids, right? Like, that can be a huge financial drain on the parents,
Oh, absolutely.
potentially, like, derailing their own goals and retirement plans.
100%. Yeah.
It's almost like the opposite of that proverb, give a man a fish, feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, feed him for a lifetime.
Right.
But in this case, it's more like, give a man's kid a fish, and you might just create a cycle of dependence.
Right. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And it speaks to the author's point about, you know, one of the most valuable gifts you can give your children is not money,
Right.
but the tools and the mindset to become financially independent themselves.
Right.
They actually found that, you know, millionaires often start teaching their kids about money from a young age,
Really?
like encouraging things like summer jobs, even selling like Girl Scout cookies.
It's about, like, instilling that entrepreneurial spirit from a young age.
Yes.
You show them that money is earned,
Totally.
you know, not just handed out.
It's earned.
And even those small ventures,
Yeah.
they teach you so much about
Absolutely.
budgeting, hard work, providing a service, things that, like, you don't always learn in a classroom.
You're so right. Those real world experiences can be so formative,
Yes.
you know.
Okay, so we've got live below your means, we've got be efficient, we've got prioritize financial independence, we've got raise those self-sufficient kids.
Yeah.
What else makes these millionaires tick?
Well, they're also incredibly adept at kind of spotting and seizing market opportunities,
Okay.
which speaks to their entrepreneurial spirit, their willingness to see potential where others might not,
So they're not just sitting around like waiting for the opportunities to come to them. They're out there like actively looking for them.
they're seeking them out,
Yeah.
and they're not afraid to take kind of calculated risks.
Right.
The book is a great example with like the founders of Home Depot.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't just follow the traditional hardware store model. They completely revolutionized it.
They saw that gap in the market.
Yeah.
Took a chance.
Totally.
And the rest is history, as they say. But it's not just blind luck, right? It's
Okay.
like they had a vision and they were willing to put in the work.
To make it a reality.
That entrepreneurial spirit, that willingness to innovate and challenge the status quo, that can be applied in any field, not just business.
It's about seeing those possibilities and having the guts to go after them.
Yes, exactly.
I like that. That's inspiring.
Yeah.
It reminds us that like we can create our own opportunities
Totally.
no matter where we are in life.
100%.
Okay, so we've talked about 6 habits so far.
Yes.
They've all been like pretty eye-opening.
Yeah.
What is the final piece of the puzzle?
The 7th habit is choosing the right occupation. Now, before you think this means everybody needs to become an entrepreneur,
Right.
remember our earlier conversation about like efficiency and return on investment?
Mm-hmm.
That applies to career choices too.
We talked about how the authors found that there's a very strong correlation between wealth and business ownership.
Yeah.
But here's another fascinating insight. The specific type of business wasn't as important as you might think.
Interesting.
It wasn't about like chasing the hot industry of the moment. It was more about finding a business that aligned with your individual strengths, your interests, and importantly, your risk tolerance.
So it's not about just like opening a dry cleaner because you heard it's like cash cow.
Right.
It's about really playing to your strengths and your passions.
100%.
Which makes sense because if you're passionate about it,
Right.
you're more likely to, stick with it, right?
Passion fuels that kind of like relentless drive
Yeah.
and dedication that often separates the
Yeah.
the wildly successful from kind of, everyone else.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Wow, this has been such an insightful deep dive into the Millionaire Next Door.
It's a good one.
So much to think about.
It's a good one.
For our listener who wanted to, uncover the secrets to building wealth,
Yeah.
I think we've delivered some serious food for thought.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not about building wealth. It's not about luck. It's about making these deliberate choices, adopting these empowering habits, and understanding that, slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah, it's about playing that good financial defense, prioritizing financial independence over, what your neighbor is doing, teaching your kids to be self-sufficient.
Totally.
All of that.
Yeah.
Being intentional with your time, your energy, your money, remembering that, as we talked about, some of the most valuable things in life can't be bought.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that.
So as you're reflecting on these habits, ask yourself, which one resonates with you the most?
Right.
Which one could you start implementing today to kind of take control of your financial future?
That is a fantastic question to ponder.
Yeah.
And on that note, dear listener, until next time, happy listening. And remember, the path to wealth might just be right next door.